On this episode of Empower, I sit down with Rachel Mae, a self-proclaimed leisure expert with love of hosting, entertaining, and adventures. She spent the last decade traveling the country, first in a vintage Airstream camper, wandering but not lost, then jet-setting for a career in the liquor industry, visiting the best bars and restaurants in the country, and attending enough events to last her a lifetime. In the last few months, Rachel has decided to go back on the road, but this time on a year-long road trip to further test her belief that we all need to lead with leisure. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Empower Show. I'm Jen Roberts. I'm sitting here with Rachel Mae Furman talking about her project, The Pursuit of Leisure. I kind of want to get into what brought you, when you left Philadelphia, what brought you to California? What were you seeking and what were you leaving?
I had been wanting to get out of Philly for a while. As you know, I kind of grew up through my 20s in Philly, and I was a promoter, a nightlife promoter. I worked with a lot of restaurants, a lot of bars. And do you remember I had Rachel Inc. back then?
Yeah, I think when you and I first became friends, that's what I referred to you as, Inc.
Yes, Inc.
Because you were a few years older than our other friend at the time and myself. So it was like this mother hen thing. Yeah.
So that was, I had Rachel's guide. That was like the guide of what to do and where to go in Philadelphia. And you know, Philly gets to be a small town after a while, as any town that you're like spending your 20s in. And I just felt like I was out all the time, and I was living this super fast paced, like million mile a minute life, doing promoting and marketing and all that. I just kind of split for a couple months and drove cross country for a while. And so when I was doing that, I spent a lot of time in California, and I loved California. I feel like it was the open space that I was craving after feeling so claustrophobic and so trapped. Got back to Philly, ended up writing a cover story for Philadelphia Weekly that like made things blow up for a little while. But I, that whole time was trying to think of like my way that I was going to get to California. So, ended up getting a job offer and was working with Sailor Jerry Rum, and they ended up flying me out to, actually not flying me, moving me out to California. I love that you asked what was I running from, or
no, not running, but
not running from.
What were you leaving and what were you walking into? Because there was definitely an ending and then a beginning. And the one that I've noticed about you from the time that we have been connected, and it's remained true, is that there is a sense of adventure with you. And is, where do you think that comes? Do you think that that was created through experience as a child, or do you think that was just something that was like innate inside of you? Because that's something that you, as long as I've known you, and now here you are, you're another adventure.
Right.
So
yeah.
Where does that come from for you?
I feel like it came from a feeling of needing to escape. So I don't know that it necessarily came from a good place, honestly. I think it felt like, we were discussing earlier, the neighborhood I grew up in was pretty shitty. And
all or Northeast Philly, Roosevelt Boulevard.
Northeast Philly. I was like trying not to get jumped in elementary school. And I just, I grew up in this tiny, tiny row house. And, I had a lot of love in my house. My parents are great, but it was just like, it was kind of rough. It was rough neighborhood. We were right by the projects. So I've always felt like just this desire to get to somewhere else and get out of my situation. Many people have had it much worse than me. I'm not trying to be a sob story on that, but it definitely motivated me to like create what I wanted because it wasn't given to me and it wasn't around me. I've always had such a drive that I did not want to, and I do not want to live like a template of a life.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that like there's a way that we're supposed to do things and everybody does them, and you're supposed to like, have your job and like get stressed out and then be like, woohoo, it's the weekend, Friday, we're going to have some drinks. And like
no, not
and then like, oh, Monday morning, I've got a case of the Mondays. And I just like, I cannot stand this template of how everybody is supposed to do.
The majority of, I'll just talk United States. I don't know what the hell in Europe, but you know,
Europeans probably do it better.
they do. They have a way more laid back lifestyle. But
Hmm.
like I know, like, I've never been there. I'm like, oh, they've got a way. No, but I think with this culture that we have here in America, people always say like LA's on one coast, New York is on the other coast, and everything in between is just like that's that's what the majority of America is, and I think
Yeah.
the majority
Hmm.
of America is living a template of a life, and I
Hmm.
can relate to you because as a child, I had this strong desire and an urge, and maybe at that time it didn't come from a healthy place, but I wanted out of my situation. And so,
Hmm.
I've always had a drive and I've always known that I was going to do something on my terms and my way. And
Hmm.
I actually had a feeling of fear when I
Hmm.
me as a child, and I said, I don't want to live like when I get older, I don't want this to be my life. And it's
Hmm.
a mundane existence.
Hmm.
Do you think that
Hmm.
that's what has driven a lot of I mean, this isn't my first rodeo. I mean, I've tried in what regards? No,
Haven't we all? Haven't
yeah,
we
this isn't
all?
my first rodeo. I mean, I've had a lot of started projects, stopped projects, left, abandoned,
Hmm.
didn't work out, or this is not my first rodeo, so I get it. There's a
Hmm.
lot of trial and error on my end.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I feel acutely aware of just that this is it. This is like, this is it. This is this is our life. Like, and then it's done. And I don't know what happens next. I didn't grow up with religion. I'm not like counting on what happens next. And another thing that I love is I kind of love being scared and I love getting past it. So, I mean, I kind of get off from that. Like, if there's something that I'm like, oh my God, like there's one thing that I'm still scared to do that I will do at some point, but I camp a lot on my own. I road trip on my own. That's not scary to me. That's not my first rodeo. I've done a lot of road
No.
tripping. I pretty much road tripped the last 10 years of my life.
I've done a lot of
And
tripping while I was recovering.
yes. But starting with that Airstream, I really started to love the feeling of that fear of like, I don't know what my plan is, but I can figure it out. And I don't know what I'm doing next, but I'm going to be okay. And kind of having that experience where I did take the leap and I had no idea. I mean, we didn't have Google Maps back then. There was no Yelp. Like I had an atlas and I looked on a page and was like, oh, I'm going to go south. The other thing about it is when I took that trip and first of all, I didn't know what I was doing. I had this idealized view of what it was going to be like, oh, I'm going to be like in the 60s, like such a free spirit and everything's going to be wonderful. And like half of that trip was total shit. I'd say probably 3/4 of it sucked. But that was a big realization that, I couldn't just have this idea of what it was going to be. I actually had to execute it. I actually had to like do the work when I was there. I actually had to.
So for me, when you're saying execute this idea, when you're saying
Mhm.
it's going to be like the 60s and I'm going to go on this cross
Right.
country road trip in my Airstream, when you're saying I'm going to have this experience, does this experience have anything to do again with this pursuit of leisure? So it's like if you have
Yes.
an idea of you going, I'm going to be camping and the s'mores are going to be going and I'm going to have the fire, there's going to be a lantern and it's going to be plugged into a battery thing here.
Yeah.
You're talking about creating this image of an experience that
Yeah.
you're seeing.
And it's been exactly 10 years since that road trip. Fun fact. Exactly 10 years. So
We're
I
just
think
talking
that's what.
about how things come back around.
Yes, exactly. So it's been exactly 10 years. And obviously, I've grown so much over the last 10 years. We're completely different people than even when we knew each other back then. Last time I did it, it was very reckless, which is very 20s of me. I had just been approved for a business loan for 20 grand because I had my own company back then. And I completely blew my business loan on like cross country road trip because that seemed smart. It was the best lesson though, because I went into it with no fear. And thank God I was naive back then because I didn't know what I was even supposed to be afraid of at that point. So I went into it with like very wide eyed, naivete. And when I got back, I was like, 20 grand in debt. I took a picture of my ATM receipt when I bought the Airstream. I literally had 13 cents left in my checking
When you
account.
got back.
Actually, it was 39 cents. No, when I bought it to go.
Mm.
And then I had and then I had this business loan and I had a credit card. So, not recommending anybody do this, but point being,
This is
I
part.
had no fear.
Yeah.
I had no fear. I was like, you know what? I don't know why, but I need to do this. And I'm listening to my gut. I'm not listening to my mind. I'm listening to like my stomach, my heart. And so I did it. And I ended up getting back, and the Philadelphia Weekly asked me to write a cover story all about my trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote that cover story. And then that got me a gig on the 10 show, the morning show that we used to have in Philadelphia. So I was like doing Fridays on the 10 show. I got a ton of clients after that because my face was on every corner with this Philadelphia Weekly with a picture of my Airstream and this story. So I'm like, 20 grand couldn't have bought that advertising. From that, I ended up getting the job with Sailor Jerry Rum because they were like, oh, she has an Airstream. That's kind of cool. Americana. We're an Americana brand. Like, this works. This works. So I ended up getting that job. And then with that job, they were like, we want to move you to California. So it's like everything kind of started snowballing in a good direction just because I had no fear in that first scenario.
One thing that you said to me, you were working for Sailor Jerry at the time, and you had said, it was our old mutual friend, and you said, girls, I'm going to be out in Aspen for the X Games, so come on out. So here are these 4 extra people in this room doing whatever, and I remember something went down where some people from Sailor Jerry were there, and I don't know what happened, but I remember you kind of were in a little bit of a hot seat about something, and you said, well, my is apologize later.
Right. Do it now, apologize later.
Yes. Do it now, apologize later.
And also, my thing that I wrote in the Philadelphia Weekly, that was like my motto for the trip, is do it now, think about it later. So, which
I feel like that's most of us with children. We're like, oh.
Yeah. I haven't gone there yet, but I will do road trips without fear. That's my baby. But the interesting thing is, so here I am now. So I'm doing this leisure project now. I'm calling it the Leisure Project. And
Pursuit of Leisure Project.
What's that?
The Pursuit of Leisure.
Yeah, the Pursuit of Leisure. I'm calling it the Leisure Project. My hashtag is the Pursuit of Leisure. So what I'm doing, it started with, I gave a workshop about exactly what we're talking about. And my workshop was basically that leisure is a necessity and not a luxury. And my whole philosophy is that the more you pay attention to the stuff that you love to do and actually want to do, the more the work falls into place. The more you are happy, so people are attracted to you. People want to work with you because you're interesting, not because like you wrote the best proposal,
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I feel like we're in a crisis right now with, the rise of technology. We've gone through it in our last 10 years, I think, in a different way than a lot of people have, because we still were adults when there was not internet. And I mean,
I had a motherfucking beeper. You know what I mean?
So did I.
Like
It was
I don't
teal.
Yeah, I had a purple one and a black one, but I feel like we have this experience of not having, but now having. We're in, I think,
right,
really interesting. There's like a, I don't know if it's a decade worth of people, but I know I'm 34.
I'm 38. Yeah, we saw it both ways, and I think that is really leading to a lot of feelings of emptiness, especially for people our age, and depression and anxiety, because we crave what we knew, but it doesn't exist anymore. So I think that a lot of us are feeling like, okay, wait, I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing. I'm like successful. I started my own business. I'm like super busy. I have lots of friends. I'm socializing, all this stuff. But we're going so fast and so fast paced that like we're not even having time to take it in or to process it or, or have downtime. And downtime is almost something that people feel guilty about.
I mean, this thing here, this phone, it is connected to me as if it was honestly a
yeah.
I hate it. Love it. Hate it. And it's like this back and forth thing. I mean, for what I do, so much of because I'm not in a brick and mortar, and because I connect with people all over the world, this is the only way.
And that's the thing. I love it, and we all love it, but we have to be real strict with creating boundaries. And something that we have not prioritized is downtime and leisure time.
Right.
And it's like affecting our health. It's affecting our mental state. It's so I'm not saying, oh, we have to just like disconnect and go live in a forest and have no electricity.
No, but it is
Although that seems amazing to me.
no, but I've noticed that you've done these little things. You've gone to adult camp and you
Mm-hmm.
put your phone in a basket for a week or however long
Right.
you're there, and you can't look at it. And there is something about coming out of that and being like, wow.
Jen, I can't even tell you. About this camp, it's called the Unique Camp, and it happens every spring. It's for 4 days. A friend of mine started it about 4 years ago, and I'm the only camper that has been to every single one so far. But
Surprising.
because I love at the end of those 4 days, basically you go and it's a creative conference. So there's amazing speakers that come, and it's all for people who are either entrepreneurial or creative types. But anyone can go. I mean, sometimes a nurse will go, and she's just there to, like all people from all walks of life are showing up because there's such a desire to connect on a real level. And we're almost like, hello, 10 years have gone by, and all of a sudden we kind of forget how to do it. And we didn't realize that we got to that point.
That's what I was starting to say before I went off track. When I get in bed at night and I crawl in bed and I'm done with my day, and whether it's with business and my dogs and my son, and the big sigh, and I let it out, and then I pick up my phone and then I'm think through some nonsense shit that doesn't even matter.
Right. And it's wasted time.
It is time. It's so.
But I don't blame us because we feel we just need to shut off, and because we've been so fast paced all day, and we've like hustled and done a million things and been at such a fast speed. So I just feel like I feel this huge calling to just like reject that. So, and it's a terrifying thought. But what I mean by reject it is like, I am not going to live this life how we're all kind of doing it right now, or how I have been doing it. I shouldn't say we all, but I found myself,
generally speaking, it's very,
I found myself in this template. It's like, okay, I get my hustle. I work from home. I work from my laptop, because all of us can do that now. And it's amazing. And it's a new world that we can do that. So we work from home, maybe or maybe not. We got out of our pajamas. We're working from home. We hustle all day. Then we go like meet up with somebody for a drink at night, or meet up with somebody for dinner or happy hour, or some sort of meeting like out in the city. Do that a couple nights. Then the weekend comes, and like, you might have your festival or something that you go on the weekend. You're going to have a Netflix night. We're going to watch some Netflix. And then you just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And I'm like, what are we even doing this for? Like, what's the end game? Am I just going to be busy for my whole life? And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. So I'm trying to prove that it can be done a different way, without going too far off the deep end. So what I've been working on, and this is kind of the difference between where I was when I took my road trip last time and where I am now. So the similar thing is, yes, I just sold a bunch of my furniture. I put everything else in storage. I have no address right now. Like I'm completely homeless right now.
How fucking freeing is that though? No, it's silly. It is though. It is.
Yeah.
I didn't do exactly that, but when Jeremy and I were together, we put everything in storage after we had Dylan, 3 or 4 months old, everything went in storage, and then we were on the road.
Yeah, awesome.
The only thing we had were our clothes, so I didn't get anything from storage until February of this year. It's been 4 years.
Oh my gosh. It just shows you that you don't need it,
No, but for me at that time, I was craving a sense of like, I had gone through, like, I lost my brother, I lost my mom, I'd become a mom, whirlwind of change. I just need to lay roots.
Yeah.
Home, a place to call home since I started going out with Jeremy. It was a long time.
Yeah. And I go in waves too. And I I was traveling. Once I got the job for Sailor Jerry, I was all over the country for like 6 years. So I was on planes all the time. It was like, it was fun. And it was super fast paced. And so when I finished that, I was like, all right, I need to be rooted, like you said. So I've just started to think about what makes me feel rooted. And for me, it's less about a place and things. And what makes me feel rooted is if I feel like I have an adventure, if I feel like I'm excited, and if I have like my minimal amount of stuff that's comforting to me. I'm like a geek about organizing that stuff. Like I have a capsule wardrobe, and it's like everything goes together, and I can at any time pack and be ready to go on a weekend. And I have my camping stuff in my trunk of my car. Like I think I'm going to camp tonight, actually. I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, some people maybe that would make panic. And at a time, it would have made me panic too. But I love that fear. I love that fear because it's manageable, and because it's fake. That there are options. I can either find a cute hotel that I like to stay at tonight. I can see some of my friends that are around in town if I feel like seeing them. I can go to an awesome campground. I have all my camping stuff and be ready.
When you go camping, you're putting up your tent?
Mm-hmm.
Are you making a fire? Are you getting wood delivered from the people on the campsite? Like, or are you going out and chopping down? Like, is it Ranger Rachel?
I have wood in the trunk of my car. I have wood in the trunk of my car.
You are so ready for this. This is amazing.
See,
who
that's
the hell
the
am
whole
I
point.
to question you? You're going on the road for a year. I'm like,
You just said the perfect thing, because you said, oh, of course you're so ready for that. Or I forget your exact words, but you said, oh, you're prepared, or you're ready for that. So one of the things that I teach in my workshop is if you are prepared for leisure, it comes to you, because it's like you're ready. You don't have to plan out, oh, I'm going to take a weekend trip. Oh God, but I have to pack, and oh, where am I going to stay? Wait, I need to do laundry. Like all of this stuff that stops us from just doing shit.
Yeah.
That's not really that hard. So I have my one bag and my outfits that, like, when I want to go and take a weekend somewhere, it's like it's ready. I already know what I'm going to wear. I already know what the outfits are. I know how I'm going to pack them. My toiletries, I only live out of toiletries in like my little dop kit, my little bag. Even when I'm home, I would always have them in the bag, just because then I'm not like, oh, did I forget something? Do I need to do this or that?
Right.
So in my workshop, I have people do this whole like worksheet, and it starts with like, what are the feelings that you like for your leisure? Is it like, I'm looking to relax. I want excitement. I like exploring. I like social time. I like solo time. So I have people really think, and we do meditations about it.
I'm a lover. I really am. As much as I am a people person, I'm a lover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you love solo, and you need that. Mm-hmm. So then if it were a work project, damn well we would plot it out, have a whole like project planned. We'd have like a list of the things that we need to do. We would put it in the calendar. We'd have all the check-ins, but we never do that when it comes to ourselves or personal time. Right. So my whole thing in the workshop is like really thinking about what it is that you want your leisure to feel like, and then making an actionable plan for how to fit that into your life and how to do it.
I know for me, a leisure would be for me, like I love to create. So there's even right now, doing with you, I'm creating. Mm-hmm. This is again technology driven. Mm-hmm. What would you tell somebody about is good leisure? I don't want to live good and bad, but what would be? Sure. Is it stuff? Is it activities you're doing with your hands?
Right.
Like, what is that? What is that?
For me, it's about where do you get your inspiration? So for example, this is fun, creating, and that's what you love to do. So I would say, let's take it one step back and think about what inspires you to come up with what show you're going to do. What is the part that you would do that would make you like, oh my God, I have a new idea. I can't wait to do it. For me, that's like flipping through magazines and being somewhere beautiful when I do it. So, or making a mood board. or making lists of just jotting down ideas of shows that you want to do or people that you want to connect with. And that can be on your phone. You're strolling other people's Instagram and like meeting new people through that. But think about the place and think about the way that you're doing it. Is it outdoors? Is it like cozy in your living room and you have your favorite cup of tea and your cozy blanket that you do?
That's why when I moved here, I don't even know if you've seen any pictures, but like my living room upstairs, like
it's amazing.
That was the one place in the room, I mean, in my home that I just was like, I want this to be an external representation of me.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff didn't cost more than $10.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went, I love that. Like, I love going to an old dusty, call them an antique mall, whatever you want, and searching.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's another leisure thing. Well, then, so my question is, okay, so you have your nest that you've made in your living room and you love that and that's your place. So do you just end up spending time there in the default when you happen to get some spare time?
I do. What I do like to do is, especially in the mornings when I have my coffee, but I will sit there, I will burn incense, I will light candles, I will put on some music, and a lot of times I like to, when Dylan's not around, but I like to do my tarot cards in the morning, and I like to, like what do I need to know today? What do I need to
Right.
So
I love that.
If you are, by the way, if you are looking for a really good tarot deck, the Wild Unknown is really awesome.
That's what I just got it. Yes.
Oh my
JC got me all linked on this stuff. Yes.
Oh my God. There you go. I mean, see,
that's what I did the whole time I was in Philly.
To me, that's synchronicity. Like the fact that tarot just came up and then I said to you, you need to get the Wild Unknown deck. And you're like, oh, JC just got it for me.
Yeah.
That is another way that the universe is like, yes, get into your tarot, girl. Get into your...
So point being, I think that people have to make a plan and prioritize their downtime. And a lot of people have guilt even with the word downtime. I know so many of my friends who are super hustlers and have their own business, if they're sitting still, they feel guilty because there's so much that they can be doing. But I think the whole point is you have to sit still in order to be better at your job, in order to do better work, in order to get the next big idea that you're going to do. And people think like they have to keep doing to get that stuff. And my point is you have to stop. And that's the only way you're going to get it. When you're on top of your leisure game, if we could call it that.
Because obviously, Mae Furman is president of her leisure game. No one else is owning your leisure game but you.
Well, when you are on top of your leisure game, I feel like you are by default on top of your work game. And I feel like we have that so backwards. I feel like people think, no, in order to be more successful, we have to do more. Like, how am I going to spend that afternoon I have free? I'm going to like brainstorm. I'm going to go do this. And, like all these ideas. So that's the other thing. I think it's so important to have time where you're doing something that has nothing to do with what you're normally doing in your day. So you love creating. Some of your leisure can be how to get inspired for that. It's spending time in your living room. It's going through your tarot cards. It's, flipping through magazines for inspiration, whatever it is. But there has to be like the time where you're just like taking a hike through the woods, or you are sitting and like coloring in a coloring book, or something where your brain is completely turned off and it feels not productive. Like, oh, I don't have time to read a book that has nothing to do with like my interest,
right.
But it's when you do that your mind has a chance to digest things and step away and like look at what it is that you've been creating and look at what you've been doing. Just be like, I'm doing a pretty fucking good job.
I actually bumped myself and I think I want to get into watercolors.
Do it.
Yeah.
I just took a class on that.
I have this like starter watercolor thing. It's been sitting there forever, but I've been like, I've seen a lot of cool watercolor art just via Pinterest or the internet. And I'm like, I should do that. I should try that.
Totally. Well, just the process of doing it, they're saying that watercolor and like the adult coloring books that are out now are as effective on your like brain zen as doing yoga and meditation. It's like if you can't do yoga or meditate, because when you're coloring or when you're painting, you're only thinking about what you're doing. So it's like your brain, whether it means to or not, it shuts off all of like the chatter of your day. And you're like, oh, you're really concentrating on something. Knitting is another one. I talk a lot about the importance of leisure and how it's a necessity. And it's nice that there are actual like medical studies that are being done.
What you're saying, yeah.
For the effect of this, yes. I really think we're in a crisis. I think that our default to just reach for our phones is leaving us so incredibly empty. And but at the same time, we feel like we can't step out of this like fast-paced template that we're in. So I'm just trying to show that like you can do it and you can do things another way. And not everybody's going to go off the deep end and like put all their shit in storage and drive around the country for a year. But that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm hoping that...
I want to say that's what you're doing. You're going to do...
That is what I'm doing. I'm waiting for my camper to be ready. I'm getting another camper in 2 months. It's like custom order. So I get to choose colors. So it's not an Airstream. It's called Happier Camper. Mm-hmm. And it's a new company that's based in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And it looks like a retro camper, but it's new. It has its USB ports. It has like solar paneling.
Oh,
the furniture is like Legos, and you can like arrange it how you want inside. So,
wait a minute. The Happy Camper?
Yeah, Happier Camper.
Happier camper. I'm going to look that up as soon as we're done this interview.
Yes.
Look that up.
I just keep thinking of I've always wanted to things that I have in my life. So I've always wanted to see fall foliage in the Northeast, like in like Maine and New Hampshire and that area, New England. I've always wanted to do bourbon country and go through Kentucky and kind of do the South. I really want to see North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, I've been through all these once, but I want to be there 10 years later now. I did it when I had my other Airstream.
You planning to come through?
I'm planning to come through Atlanta, of course.
And when you come through Atlanta, you're going to stay with me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so if you need to camp, you can camp in your camper in my backyard.
Oh my God.
I
You're doing that? We're going to have a little dinner party like in your backyard with my camper. Okay.
Come and you see my whole setup. Like there's enough room for everyone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll hang there for a bit.
Yeah, I'll do a little lifestyle shoot on you. As the pursuit of leisure comes to Atlanta and comes to me. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Collab. So I want to drive to Alaska. That's my thing that I'm like craving. It could very easily be a thing where I'm like, oh, I want to drive to Alaska someday. And then it's 10 years later and I've never done it. So what I've tried to do is I think first about what I want to do in my leisure. And then I think about how to make my work fit in. I've spent the last maybe 2 years really trying to figure out how to make my work happen behind a laptop. I've done all kinds of marketing and branding in my career, and some of it you have to be there. You're like throwing events, you're doing face-to-face stuff, but then there's a lot of other stuff that you're doing more like strategic behind the scenes. So I've gotten into doing social media. So right now that's kind of like my side gig. I'm managing social media, all for clients that have something to do with leisure, like Spirit, hotels, restaurants. So it's still connected to what I'm doing. It's still part of this leisure project.
It's all in your bills right now too.
Yeah, exactly. So I've figured out how to make it like, okay, leisure is what I want to do. I have a business card that says I'm a leisure expert, whatever the hell that means. But people believe it. That's the thing. They're like, oh,
you are that, like you are what you say you are. I remember when you and I reconnected, I was like, I don't like know exactly what you do, but all I know is that like you curate the experience of like day events, and it could be something as simple as like, oh, Joni just dropped in, let me make her a drink. I mean, like that's exactly, if someone's like, well, what does she do? I'm like, she curates vibes of
I curate vibes. I like that.
She curates vibes. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
And, and I was doing that in person, and that was burning me out. And I was doing a lot of bar catering, and I was making cocktails and kind of doing like Martha Stewart of cocktail type stuff. And I loved doing that, but I was like, this isn't going to align with me wanting to travel and me wanting to road trip. So how do I mold it into something that actually can be done on the road? And so I started to do photo shoots and social media instead of doing like events and styling.
Well, let me ask you, I think that you should take this next year and go on a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
That you should, with each place that you stop, with each experience that you're curating the vibe of, I think you should document it,
Mm-hmm.
have it photographed, and I think that at the end of the day, I mean, at the end of your trip, you should literally put together a coffee table book of leisure, the
Mm-hmm.
leisure project over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Are we on the same page?
That's the plan.
Really just come up with...
That's the plan. You're hired.
Yeah. Can I just tell you that we have had no talking. I just basically...
Yeah.
Okay. I just basically pulled out of you what you're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Wait a minute.
So I'm making it into a book, and it's going to be twofold. Well, it's going to be a book. It's also going to be a guide. So the Leisure Project is, it's going to be an online guide of my adventures, but also to inspire people of this is what you can do. Here are things that you can do. Here's your leisure ideas. So kind of breaking it down, being a little bit of a travel guide. I'll be writing a little bit for a couple magazines, just travel guides type stuff. But then my book is not just going to be the places and the photographs, but I want to write about my philosophy of, the pursuit of leisure and how it is a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's not something we do when we have time, because we never will have time.
No.
It's like we have to lead with leisure. This is what I've been saying.
Trademark that.
Will you help me figure out this
trademark?
trademark?
I will help you in any way that I can. When it comes to the trademark,
we gotta lead with leisure.
That has got to be your...
My hashtag, damn it.
Yeah, you've got to make that a trademark of your brand.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm trying this experiment of leading with leisure and seeing if I can still make a living around it. At sometimes I may not need as much money as I'm used to making, because I'm not paying rent. I'm not, I don't have this like home base. But I feel like that will be exactly the time when the money does come to me, because I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm doing what I'm passionate about. And, right now I have some really great clients, and they're down with me traveling, because then I can get photos from different places. I was just,
well, I was going to ask you,
mm-hmm.
This whole project that you're working on, could you have it sponsored in some way?
I could. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could have it sponsored. And right now I haven't needed to yet, because the social media stuff is going well for me right now. And it has been such a lesson, because with my clients, I've always felt like, oh my God, they're going to be like, what is this chick doing? She's never around, because we're conditioned to think we're just like supposed to be in front of our computers all the time, and we're guilty if we're not.
My social media manager for LB, she doesn't even live in the United States. She lives in Canada.
That's amazing.
A wonderful job. I mean, I run the main LB account, but she runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so there is a way. There's a way to do it. And I so 100% am adamantly believing that the happier and more fun that I'm having, the better work I do. It has nothing to do with how many hours I'm sitting at a computer. I mean, I do a lot of work. I just do it from somewhere that's new or awesome or that I love. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. I mean, there's Wi-Fi in the middle of nowhere, like at a truck stop, at a coffee shop. Like you can find Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So again, it's like these fears that we have. It's like, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't just like drive around and, have clients and they're going to be okay with it. And I'm like, actually, I really think that you can,
Funny, because that even ties into how I'm expanding my brand right now. Like I sat for a while and I was like thinking about all of this way that I could tie in this communication and this connection and put it back out for this new content. And I was like, you should just have LBTV. I mean, really, the thought goes, okay, well, you're not like Vans, you're not Nike. And I'm like,
right.
I don't care. I'm going to make TV for my brand. And so that's what I'm saying. Like when people are like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like you're not this. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I can
and the the difference is, someone might think like, okay, I want to get into TV and media. So let me go and like network and see if I can meet somebody who might be able to get me a job so that I can start learning about. It's like, just do it. And you had that idea 10 years ago. You were making shows and things like that 10 years ago. So I'm so happy to see it all coming together under one umbrella.
Now it is. It's just interesting because I felt like there was a shift when I got to a point, even with the years that I've been doing this, and I'm like, look, I know I love designing. Mm-hmm. I know I love like connecting with my people. Mm-hmm. I kind of started getting burned out. I'm like, I'm sitting on a chair all day in front of a computer, and this is not what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's just not it. It's not it.
No, but it's part of it. But I'm not above. Like I'm not that entrepreneur that comes in and goes, well, I should be making, $100,000 right from the bat. It's like, no.
But you know what? And we were talking earlier about aging, and I just want to say like, amen to that feeling of being in your 30s and that whole shift of like, I want to do this. I want to do this. How do I get to it? And you're hustle. And then there just reaches a point, I think, in your 30s that you're just like, I am here. I'm here. I've arrived, and I can just do it. I can just do whatever I want. And you don't have to look for the contact. You don't have to network.
No, like I would sit there and say that any success that I've arrived at or whatever has to be because I'm resourceful as fuck. Mm-hmm. Because
scrappy Philadelphia girls.
I'm but I think that plays a lot into maybe where I am today, right now. Mm-hmm. I don't have some show on Netflix, but who cares? Yeah. It's like I have a community to do a show with.
Speaking of scrappy, I need to explain the scenario I'm in right now because I never did get to tell you.
If you guys are wondering what scrappy is, both Rachel and I are from Philadelphia. I feel like the rough edges have rounded out some, but it still can go there if need be.
We're hustlers. Yeah. Yes, we're hustlers. But okay, so I was in San Francisco early this weekend for one of my clients. I was doing some photo shoots, and then I need to be in Cambria to shoot a hotel in Cambria tomorrow. I need to have this call, and I want to be somewhere where I'm going to have quiet. I want a nice background. So I looked up a really fancy hotel, and I was like, I'm driving to this hotel, and I valeted my car. I was like, yeah, I'm not checking in. I'm just going to use the restaurant, which I will have dinner afterwards.
I love it.
Do you know where I am right now? I have snuck down. I'm in a boardroom. I'm in a boardroom. I didn't ask anybody.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. First. Ask or apologize later.
Apologize later. Yes, exactly. So I was like, if anybody comes in, I'll just be like, oh, I'm just having a call. No big deal. But I'm sitting at the boardroom table of this gorgeous, like $500, $600 a night hotel. Like, just made myself at home here in the boardroom, recording a show with you. I'm going to have dinner when I'm done. And then I'm going to drive to a campground and I'm going to camp for the night. The thing is, it's all doable, it's all so doable. You're just like, what do I need? Okay, I need a quiet space in a nice atmosphere. Great, I'm going to find a hotel. Okay, I need Wi-Fi. Great, they're going to have it. So here I am. I'm in the boardroom. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I don't even know what city I'm in right now.
No, see, that's amazing though. I mean, you want to talk about really just having this spirit of adventure. And
it just doesn't matter. So many things that we stress about, the first things that pop into our head are like, oh, I can't do this because of that, or like, oh, but what if this happens? And if you think about them, they're so silly sometimes. There's risks in everything we do, but we just can't let it stop us from doing what we want to do.
As you and I have always said from day one, manifest.
Yes, we are manifesting that
shit. Rachel, thank you so much in sharing this project with everybody. I think it's super cool, and I wish you best of luck, and I will be following along.
Thank you. I'll be camping in your backyard.
Damn right you will, and you guys will see a little collab when that happens. All right, well, thank you for coming on, and thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.